So yesterday, we of course had our Nintendo Direct partner showcase, showcasing off third-party efforts on the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I did a full video on it, so I'm not going to go super in-depth on my thoughts about it. Be sure to check out yesterday's video if you want a game-by-game breakdown of the Nintendo Direct. But overall, for me personally, I felt it was a little bit need a little bit more sizzle on the steak. It needed a little bit of more interesting things to me personally. Now, that's not to say that there weren't some good and interesting games there, because there were, but there was a lot of games where it was kind of like, all right, what's next? All right, what are you going to show me next? Okay, what's the next game on the agenda here? You know, the campfire game, like, are we really putting our best and brightest in this Nintendo Direct partner showcase that's supposed to be confirming to people that third-party games are going to come to the Switch 2 in a timely manner? But like I said, I'm not here to talk about the Direct itself, so watch yesterday's video if you want that. I want to talk about the fallout from this, because I tried to warn everyone. Like, I have been preaching this from the mountaintops, and obviously the regular viewers and stuff like that, you guys know where I'm coming from. You guys have understood my message, whether you wanted to accept that message or not, you know, that kind of falls on you. But I think after yesterday, we can all sit here in agreement that RGT's message was correct, because when this information came out, I didn't freak out. I said, of course that's going to be the case. And we are, of course, talking about game key cards, because pretty much every game that you saw yesterday is going to be a game key card on the Nintendo Switch 2. And there was shock all over the internet. These are all game key cards, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, have you not been listening to me? I've told you this for literally months now, that this is going to be how games are distributed on the Nintendo Switch 2. We'll get into the whys in just a moment, but let's take a look at our updated list here, because it's actually been updated since this list was updated. This is coming to us from Physical Releases, Play Physical, updated game key card / code in a box list for Nintendo Switch 2. We will certainly soon include Monster Hunter Stories 3, you will, The Adventures of Elliot, you will, Pac-Man World 2, you definitely will, and Chronos The New Dawn. After all, Square, Bandai, and Capcom seem convinced that this is the best thing for them. So let's take a look at our lineup of games here. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Not Sparkling Zero, it's not a water. I said it wrong before in the past. Game key card. Persona 3 Reloaded. Game key card. Octopath Traveler 0. Game key card. FC26. Wait for it, game key card. Star Wars Outlaws, game key card. Madden 26, game key card. And when you look at this lineup of games, there actually is a bit of a variety of different companies here. You have Bandai Namco, you have Sega Atlas, you have Square Enix, you have EA, you have 2K. Like, there's a decent NIS America as well. You know, IO Software. Like, there's a decent little variety. Koei Tecmo with Wild Hearts S, which, my God, did anyone play that demo? It was so bad. Split Fiction, Survival Kids. Like, this is a decent list of third-party companies, and they're all doing game key cards. Pac-Man and Yakuza 1 were confirmed by retail listings. Wise Little Nightmares on there twice. My mistake. Then we go down here. You know, it's going to be this, that. Oh, look, Borderlands 4. And this one's actually very interesting, because if you look at this picture here, you can see 40 gigabytes. Full game download via internet required. And so why is this happening? You know, because so many people got it in their head that, oh, well, not every company's going to do this, and the games aren't going to sell well, and they sent out a message to the Japanese buyers of the Switch 2 to ask them what they thought about game key cards, and they all probably said these are terrible and the Antichrist. And then, of course, the new Sonic Racing game is going to be on the physical game cartridge, so that means all companies are now, you know, reassessing how they're doing. And I'm just like, you can't honestly think, like, you can't honestly think that. You can't. You might as well believe in the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny at this point in time, if that's what you think, if that's how you think this business is being conducted. Now, when you look at the companies involved in this, you do have a lot of usual suspects in this. And these are the companies that, for whatever reason, Nintendo seems to be in bed with, because there is much more to this story than just these companies utilizing the game key cards. A lot of these companies are the exact same companies that we saw at the Nintendo Switch 2's initial direct, where we learned about third-party games coming to the system. Bandai Namco, Sega, Capcom, Konami. These are all companies, Square Enix, EA, 2K. Like, we know these companies are doing stuff with Nintendo. Where are the other companies with this? Where are the newer projects coming to us from other companies that are multi-platform releases? And of course, we come back to the main thing here. Well, why the game key card? Why does everything have to be a game key card? I don't know how many times I can say this. I do believe that YouTube auto-translates my videos if you use the closed caption button. So if you speak another language or something like that and you don't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, use your appropriate language as I break this down for you. Once again, as I've said multiple times before, there is only one cartridge size on the Nintendo Switch 2 for physical games. It is a 64 gigabyte cartridge that costs $17 for companies to purchase to put their game on it. Now, if you're talking about a brand new game that's day and date with other games, maybe you can get away with that if you're hoping to make it up on the back end. But you also have to consider the file size of your game. Some of these games that we've talked about today are under the file size. They're under 64 gigabytes, but there is no alternative. Now, something like Borderlands 4, of course, being 40 gigabytes, you pretty much have to choose between a 32 gigabyte cartridge and a 64 gigabyte cartridge in a perfect world. But a game like Pac-Man, a game like, you know, these smaller 2D HD RPGs coming to us from Square Enix, they are nowhere near the file size of 64 gigabytes. And more than likely, these are not going to be a $70 game. They're going to be $50 or $60 in line with what we've seen with other HD 2D games from Square Enix. So if I'm spending $17 to get this cartridge, but I'm only selling the game at $50, I have to make up for this somewhere. Hey, spoiler alert, video game companies want to make money. And when you're looking at this list of games, I see a bunch of games that are either too small to be on the cartridge or too big to be on the cartridge. You know, Octopath Traveler, too small. FC26, probably too big. NBA 2K26, definitely too big. Like Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, too small. I don't get it. Nothing is going to change, by the way, with this. It's either the game key card. There's three things that can happen with this, okay? The first thing is it's going to be a game key card, and that's what you're going to get. At least you can resell that game key card down the road because it's essentially a digital purchase. The second thing that can happen is companies just completely skip the game key card, and you have a digital purchase only. Or the third thing would be Nintendo figures out a way to have different cartridge sizes. Why they don't have different cartridge sizes at the launch of the system does not make sense to me. I don't think it makes sense to anyone. The original Nintendo Switch had a wide variety of different cartridge sizes, the biggest being a 32 gigabyte cartridge. I believe only 2 games ever used that. A Dragon Quest collection that came out in Japan only, that was a 32 gigabyte cartridge, and The Witcher 3. But The Witcher 3 was also potentially subsidized by Nintendo when it came to the physical cartridges of it. Now, that's kind of something that's just a rumor, but if you look at that game, that's a CD Projekt Red game. And what was the one game on the Nintendo Switch 2 that happened to have the full game on the cartridge? Oh, Cyberpunk 2077, a CD Projekt Red game. The game key card situation is not going to get any better. If you stop buying them, companies are going to stop making them. They're going to just do digital games only. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But you not buying these games is not going to magically make these companies want to spend the additional money to put their games on a cartridge, especially when a $17 cartridge is so much more than the peanuts that it costs, you know what, a dollar maybe to put their game on a Blu-ray. Now, what does that sound familiar to you? What does that sound like? Oh, the Nintendo 64. Where companies had to pay an exorbitant price to get a third party. When they were third party, they had to pay an exorbitant price to get a cartridge, then had to sell the game at a higher price. That's the reason N64 games cost so much, especially the third party ones. Why do you think Doom and Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey were $80 games? But then if the game came to the PlayStation, it was a $50 game because the CD was cheaper than a cartridge. They didn't have to spend as much money. Because what's going to happen is, if they got to make Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S and they have to put it on that cartridge and spend that $17, that game's not going to be $40 or $50. It's going to be a $70 game. And people are not going to pay $70 for a game that's available on other platforms that's cheaper because Nintendo decided to not make different cartridge sizes. That's what it really boils down to at the end of the day. You might not like it, but like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you want to play third-party games on your Switch 2, it's either going to be a game key card or it's going to be a digital. The few and far between. For every 20 games, 30 games that come, let's say from every 30 games that come out from third-party publishers that are game key cards, there will be 1 or 2 true physical releases on the Switch 2. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon unless Nintendo just craps out some new cartridges or they start eating that $17. I don't see that happening. This is a company that's very confident right now with their system. Let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. You could disagree with me, but I'm going to tell you you're wrong, dude. Like, there's a reason why this is happening. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.